Willie D Live.
What's up, family? Christian and Justin Combs are getting in on the Diddy documentary act. Yeah, fam, they said, man, we tired of y'all talking about our daddy. We got something to say. And I'm here for it, fam. You know why? Because Christian and Justin are not just journalists. They're family. So what I want to know is, can proximity bring clarity, or does it complicate the truth? That's what I want to know. Like, are they going to allow their personal connection with him to skew the information that they put out? Does the documentary humanize him or strategically reframe him? Can his legacy be separated from controversy? That's what I want to know. Is the documentary an act of love, protection, truth-telling, or all three? Personally, I think they're going to take the high road on this, and they are going to put this documentary out in support of their dad. Since he's been in a jam, they've shown nothing but support for him. So I can't see that changing. But not everybody is so convinced that this is a good thing. There's a whole lot of people who are subscribed to the Zeus network who are saying, we out. They say they are going to unsubscribe because these guys are putting the documentary out. Here are some of the comments. One person said, Zeus going outside. Another said, yeah, I'm just unsubbing, babe. People still gonna watch it, so shut up. Another person said, we don't want this. Child, I don't want to hear none that gotta say they was doing it too. I don't want to hear none they gotta say they was. Why in the hell do people write like that? Like, why do people write like that? That don't make sense to me. Another person said, Fort Dix, laughing with the pronunciation of the name. It's actually spelled, I believe it's spelled D-I-X. Fort Dix. Yeah, it's D-I-X. Yeah. So someone else said, absolutely not. What's wrong with the kids? Did I miss something? I thought Diddy only did it. Someone said the light-skinned one, I ain't gonna read that. I don't like to just put people in those type of situations because I ain't really heard nothing about that. Ebony says, dog, what? Shelly says, unsubscribing, baddies ain't worth corrupting my soul. F Zeus, honestly. Somebody else said, that part won't be getting my money, giving it to anything supporting Diddy. Somebody else said, not surprised. Another person said, ew, why would y'all do this? Someone else said, they guilty too. I respect Zeus even more because of this. Canceling after USA, LOL, this is sick. Same. So you kind of get the point. A lot of people are upset about this documentary. I think it's a good move for the youngsters. I think it's a good move, two reasons. One, it's an opportunity for Diddy to be seen as a father. In a way, the documentary, I do believe, is going to be meant to humanize him. And two, it gives his sons an opportunity to strike out on their own as filmmakers. I do believe that this thing is going to be highly watched. Yeah, I do believe it's going to be watched. People are saying they're not going to watch it, but I think a lot of people are going to watch it. Enough people are going to watch it for it to go viral and make a whole lot of money. say what you want, but people are extremely interested in Diddy's life, and more specifically, the accusations levied against him. I know that his son, Justin, name has come up in a couple of cases, but there wasn't anything out there concrete about him. Here's something to consider. I think with the documentary, the sons can answer a lot of questions that people have. Let's talk about these extremes. The extreme of Diddy being a genius or evil, right? His sons can talk about that. And will they mention the dark side of Diddy? Not necessarily talking about the whole sexcapades and all that stuff, but, everybody got two sides. You got your public side and you got your personal side. When he gets angry, what does that look like? Will they share that part? I would advise them not to. And if I did, if I was in their shoes, if I mentioned it, I would kind of just slide right by, just jump on, jump off really quickly, because you don't want to plant seeds in people's head and they start thinking something else. You got one thing in mind, they got something else in mind. I think it's a good move on their behalf. I don't know who came up with that, but typically you would not see family members whose loved one is accused of an egregious crime making a documentary about that crime or those crimes or those accusations and their response to that. You typically would not see something like that. So I think that is going to be as interesting as listening to Diddy before he actually went into jail on that 50 Cent's executive produced documentary. What Diddy is talking to his lawyer and talking to people around him. He's biking, he's doing all kinds of stuff, showing the days leading up to his arrest by the feds on those sex trafficking charges. That right there is what set the 50 Cent's documentary apart from others. Diddy pretty much narrated his own hit piece. And I don't even know if it really was a hit piece. I don't think, let me back up. I don't even think that was really a hit piece. I think he just documented what was going on with the Diddy case. It was more of it was more of him documenting what was going on with the Diddy case. Because the people who he spoke to, not he, but the people who the director spoke to, I'm assuming she interviewed him also. The people who were interviewed, let's put it like that, the people who were interviewed in the documentary, they were people who knew Diddy, his people from his childhood, people who he had worked with, people who the guy who started Bad Boy with him. They talked about the good side of Diddy and the bad side of Diddy. Typically, if you do a documentary about anybody, you're going to hear the good side and the bad side. But then again, this did lean heavily on the bad side. So perhaps this was maybe it was a hit piece, but it wasn't let me see, you got hit piece. What's the euphemism? You got hit piece, you got little hit piece or something. I don't know, fam. I don't know shit, but I guess it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I thought he was going to go all the way in and go for the jugular. I don't think that's what happened. I think that we saw both sides of Diddy because the people had already made their minds up about who Diddy was and what they thought about him. And we've seen a lot of Diddy already. We've seen enough of Diddy to judge and say, I like this guy or I don't like this guy, before and after the charges. So if after the charges you felt a certain way about Diddy, if you didn't like him before, you probably wouldn't like him after. If you liked him before the charges and, after the charges, you probably still liked him. You dig what I'm saying? There probably was a few people that decided, oh, I'm against this guy, whatever. But for the most part, I think people, decided that, look, I support him, but I'm going to support him from a distance. Oh, I hate this guy, and I'm going to let it be known. But I don't think the documentary tilted people's opinion of Diddy one way or the other. I don't believe it swayed people's opinion of Diddy one way or the other. You heard both sides, and I think it was really balanced. People who already had an idea of who Diddy was before the documentary, they stood on that. Whether it was good or bad, they stood on that. So that's the way I see that part. But the thought-provoking nuances is what's going to be the hit, I do believe, in this documentary for Christian and Justin. Here's something else to consider. What responsibility do children have when the world is judging their parent? If they stay silent, would that also be seen as guilt or avoidance? I think this is a good look for Christian and Justin, because you got to think about who usually controls the narrative when powerful figures fall. This, I believe, is an attempt to reclaim the story before history locks it in. But what say you, fam? Drop a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. No more talk.